Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest issue 1 comic books that I read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, you came to the right place. Why don't you guys hit that subscribe button? Also, one more thing, if you want to show that extra love, that extra support towards the channel, you can become a member of my YouTube channel. All you gotta do is hit that join button right there on that home screen, and as low as 99 cents, guys, you can support the channel, and you will get stickers on comments during live streams and regular comments. You'll also get monthly badges to let you know how long you've been a member of my channel for, and probably the biggest thing is you will get early access to my videos once they're published. So yeah, great stuff, guys. And if you don't, that's totally fine. As long as you like, subscribe, and comment, I appreciate that just as much. So with that being said, let's get started with this week's episode of Worthy Ones. So this week's episode of Worthy Ones is a little creative because there is only 2 issue 1s that I read. So I had to come up with books that I either really enjoy or start off new story arcs or start off events. And the book that we're starting to talk about first is going to be The Amazing Spider-Man issue 47, because you guys know this, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I enjoy the book whether it's good or bad, right? I want to see what actually happens. And again, this kicks off a new story arc. And so this is kind of going off of the events of Web of Spider-Man issue 1 because it has Hallows' Eve and Chasm in it, and it goes back to a storyline that happened a long time ago with the Hobgoblin, if you remember that, like way early in the run. Now, this book is $5 book for 28 pages. It's legacy numbering 941. The writer is Zeb Wells. The art is done by Todd Nook. And the artwork is great. The coloring is really good. If this was your regular artist in Amazing Spider-Man, I would look forward to at least looking at it each and every week. In this comic, you wind up seeing Peter Parker actually go on a date with Nurse Shay, and she is the one that was from Ravencroft that was kind of rehabilitating Anna in here, and they set up a date. And it was cool to see this date actually happen and Peter having a good time. But of course, duty calls and he has to leave the poor girl stranded. It's like the dude can never catch a break or establish any type of relationship with anybody, which is definitely disappointing. I don't even care who it is. If you have him have a relationship with somebody just to progress the character and have him grow up already a little bit, that would be absolutely awesome. But this book does go back into story threads that were introduced a while back, obviously, because Betty Brant is trying to get any type of lead to get her husband out of jail, as he was framed as being the Hobgoblin, and he was brainwashed and all this stuff, and she came across these thugs, and we wind up seeing Spider-Man try to rescue her. Once she gets rescued, then we wind up coming across a Chasm and Hallows' Eve reunion with the 3 of them, and it just goes back to Nick Spencer was finishing his line or his run on the book, because we also got Green Goblin in here too. So we get the reuniting of all these characters from just old story threads, and it was good. I liked it. I don't want to say it was really the best issue, but I feel like it was more of a setup of things to come, because we also get introduced to a storyline that's going to happen on Free Comic Book Day. They actually preview that right here with the Living Brain, and it's going to be covered in Free Comic Book Day, like I said. So at the end of the day, this book was worthy. This is better than what we've gotten when it's come to the dark web and to the gang war and all those different types of other stories. We got good artwork in here, I like how we are revisiting that stuff. So I think this is a solid read. I'm looking forward to the next issue to see how it goes. It's kind of funny to see, Ben Reilly here not be all 100% with it with his memories. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a B-. It was good. Hopefully it sets up better things to come in the next issue. Uncanny Valley, this is issue 1. This book is a 32-page comic for $5. This book is written by Tony Fleece, who also does Stray Dogs and Feral. And then David Watcher does the artwork in this comic book. Now, the artwork is really good. We get introduced to this boy by the name of Oliver here. And it opens up with the very famous, line or saying going, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? And this kid literally jumps off a bridge, and his friends break their legs, and the other, and Oliver doesn't. And you would think in the beginning it's kind of like, oh, did he get lucky? How did he survive this? And why did he make an indentation like a cartoon character, right? But you don't think anything of it in the beginning. You just think that this is a kid that's trying to fit into school because he's new at this school. And the more you actually read this comic book, the weirder and weirder it gets, because all Oliver knows is his mom and himself, and there's no other distant relatives, right? And he's trying to figure this out a little bit, and his mom doesn't give him any answers. And based off of the events that happened with school, let's just say that Oliver wound up getting suspended, because not only did he jump from the bridge, he wound up setting a tray on fire during lunchtime, and then he wound up doing something else, which I kind of forgot what it was, right? But as this book really unravels, we wind up getting to see him interact with like a cartoon world. Okay, so if you've ever seen like Roger Rabbit, that might be an older thing for you guys. Maybe Space Jam, maybe the recent one where reality comes into contact with cartoon life. That's what this comic is about. And we wind up seeing these crows interact with Oliver, and they're cartoons. Like, they're not like real crows, and they're trying to take him away. And then all of a sudden we see like this Yosemite Sam type of character like shoot these guys away. And he's like, get away, you gosh tarnets, and he looks like this. And you're like, whoa, what the hell is happening? And then all of a sudden you see Oliver's mom goes, Dad, you shouldn't be here. And you're like, what? This is my grandpa? And when you look at this, you can't take it seriously, right? It's just a funny ass book. And then as the issues continue to go, we wind up seeing more and more cartoon things happen to Oliver here. Like when he runs like an old school like Looney Tune character, like the Roadrunner or something like that. It's just hysterical. And I don't know what to expect from this comic, but I really liked it and I found it worthy. This is a really good book, guys. Don't sleep on this one. If you love Stray Dogs and you currently like Tony Fleece's writing, you might like this book. Has that fun element to it. And right away, you like the character of Oliver. He knows that he's in school. He knows that he's trying to be good, and his mom doesn't believe him, but as you read it, you found out that there's something much more different about the character. Great book. Definitely pick it up. I'm going to give this one an A. This definitely surprised me. I did not think this was going to be such a good book, so I'm going to be looking forward to issue 2. Rat City, this is issue 1. This is a 40-page comic for the price of $4. This book is written by Erica Schultz, so it has no Todd McFarlane attached to it. This is Z. Carlos who does the artwork on this book as well. A lot of people are saying that this is like a Spawn 2099 because this is a Spawn-like character that takes place well into the future. It's like 2100s, and that's what happens. Now, in this comic book, just like Al, we have this military agent who goes out on a mission, and he winds up getting in a horrific accident. He winds up losing his legs in the comic book, and then one of his friends winds up surviving as well, but he gets pretty messed up as well. So what happens here is these guys get thrusted into this pharmaceutical program where they're testing prosthetics on soldiers and former vets. and they go through this experiments, and if the experiments don't go right, then they toss them out to the side. It's a pretty sad story because probably a lot of people can relate to this if you're, part of the military suffering for PTSD, and if you don't get the proper help, you're going to be cast to the side. So that pulls at the heartstrings for a lot of people out there. So we get to see this guy. He wind up out on the streets. He gets this meaningful job, not really meaningful job. He's kind of like almost like a construction worker type of thing. And then what happens here is this guy gets caught in this hole, and then based off of what happens in, I think it's 2019, that Al Simmons, who succeeded in the necroplasmic detonation, and not only did it affect his reality, but it affected the reality of all time in space. So this explosion affected our main character here in ways that you would not expect. He basically becomes like a Spawn, and he comes across Al Simmons at the end of the issue. So I thought it was kind of cool. At first, when it came to this character, and his name is Peter Karen, I was like, man, why do I really care about this guy? Because it was just like him in the military, and there was all these other guys, and you're trying to learn their faction. And in the beginning, it was like slow and drawn out, and I'm like, I don't really care so much about this. But once it got to Peter and his journey, I started caring more, right? And then by the time I got to the end of the issue, I was like, okay, now it's worth a second issue. So I'm going to deem this book worthy. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad either. It's going to be these future issues, obviously, that are going to determine if I continue Rat Cedar or not. Like, how does this guy, defend the city? Are we going to see other people from his units become like these other hell spawns? Are they going to be his enemies? How is it going to connect to the Spawn universe overall? There's a lot of questions. This has the potential to be a really good book. So we'll see as time goes. I'm going to give this one a C+. Definitely a lot of unknown here. It definitely has me intrigued. Ultimate X-Men issue 2. So I wanted to cover this book a second time around because I know a lot of people out there were kind of like, oh wow, this is not an X-Men book in any stretch of the imagination. Do I give it an issue 2, right? And then for other people, they're like, oh, I liked issue 1 and I want to see where issue 2 goes, because with Peach Momoko's storytelling here, I feel like this is a very decompressed story where we're going to get, an introduction to a character. You're going to learn about that character, and then you're going to get an introduction to another character, and it's going to be like this slow burn story, and then eventually they're going to come together and go out on this mission. Now, some people are talking about how this story gives them like Persona vibes. Now, if you're talking Persona, is it the video game? Because I wasn't sure if they made manga on Persona. My son is a huge Persona series fan. So if you're talking about the video game, let me know in the comments below. But if you love manga, I think you're going to love this, this comic book inspired by manga. Peach Momoko does the artwork and the writing in this comic book. It looks great, man. It has that very distinct feel to it. It's something different. And I don't feel like you can really knock something for being different, right? But nevertheless, if you're expecting, a traditional X-Men comic book, guys, this is not going to be worthy for you, okay? But if you're willing to give it a chance and realize that it's something different, you might actually like this comic book. Now, me, on the other hand, what did I think about it? So in this book, we wind up seeing our two characters this time around. We wind up seeing Hyashiko and May Igrishi? I don't know how to say the names right, and I apologize about that. But we wind up seeing May Storm actually come into this book and interact with, I'll just call her Armor in this comic book. And these two wind up becoming friends, and they wind up going to a place to investigate the shadow creature, right? Because this shadow creature is like haunting and kind of messing with our main character here. So they go to this particular building. and they investigate, and they come across the shadowy figure once again. And you wind up seeing them, the creature, chasing them, and they use their powers. And like I said, you get to see May use her powers for the very first time in this comic book, and they run away. Now, the weird thing about this comic, and I was a little bit lost here, is we come across the building which looks like they were at, and it has like these flames here, and then it changes into like a normal house. I'm like, what? I'm like, what's going on there? And then we go to this random guy who's wearing like this bucket on his head, which you think, oh, is this like a Professor Xavier character? And he's wearing Cerebro? Like, I'm not sure. And he's like all sweating and everything else. And he just, he's just sitting there going, he's like, why? And then you wind up seeing coming out of his little room here, right? And again, he's all sweaty, he wears glasses, and he's like, Yatsuko. And I'm like, what? And then you wind up seeing the next term of school start, the entrance ceremony, where these two look like they're going to be best friends going forward. Again, a lot of people are like, oh, this reminds me of Persona, because if you've ever played the Persona games, you get a bunch of kids that go to school and then they work together and they fight and things like that. And they create these personas. This book is worthy. I like it because it's just something different, right? It's not your traditional X-Men book. And, people are like, well, why do you put Ultimate X-Men? They're nowhere near X-Men. Well, maybe they got to get to that point to become X-Men. I don't know. But nevertheless, I liked it. Is it like the best book in the world? Is it breaking the barrier of comic books? No, it's not. It's just something different, and I liked it. So again, is it a little slow? It might be. It might not be a lot of story progression. So I'm going to give this one a B-. Let me know what you guys thought of Ultimate X-Men in the comments section below. Is this too slow of a pace for the storytelling for you? Or you think it's right? Or do you like the difference? Do you hate it? I want to know all that stuff, guys. Transformers issue 7. Okay, so why this one is on Worthy Ones is because I could not wait to talk about this comic book. If you have not read your comic book yet, please read this comic book, then come back, let's talk about it. So Transformers issue 7 has a lot going for it. And why, again, this one is on Worthy Ones is because this is the first issue with the new artist, Jorge Corona. And a lot of people were very, very worried about, oh my God, this book is going to look so different with a new artist. And let's just say it has a very similar vibe on what you're used to reading when it comes to Transformers, right? I think you would think that, oh my God, it's going to be jarring. It's not jarring. It blends nicely with Daniel Warren Johnson's artwork. It's like it almost didn't skip a beat, but you can tell that it is a little bit different. And with Spicer's coloring in there, it looks absolutely phenomenal. Now, in this comic book, you get something that we've never seen in any Transformers, at least in my knowledge, comic ever, where we get Soundwave and Starscream battling for leadership in here, okay? Now, not only do you get that in this comic book, but we see a Cybertron story in here as well, as we get to see Huffer and Cup and is it her name, Alita, in here, as they're trying to get to a certain place in Cybertron to get somebody. And then what happens is that particular Autobot is completely destroyed, okay? And you're like, who is that? I think it's Ultra Magnus, because there is a reference later on in this comic book with Ultra Magnus. But in this comic book, you wind up seeing this huge fight happen between Starscream and Soundwave, and it was this epic battle to the point where you're just like, oh shit, like Soundwave, when he wants to be, is a complete freaking badass, and he just takes it right to freaking Starscream, and he definitely uses Laserbeak to his advantage here. And who wins? I'm not going to tell you that. You'll have to read it for yourself, but it was just a really cool fight. Then we get to see the other side of this book, which I'm very worried about Carly's state in here, because it was up to Cliffjumper and it was in his hands to destroy Starscream at that point in time. And Carly and Cliffjumper had a great relationship. Now, is their relationship broken because he didn't do what he was supposed to do? And he feels that. He's like, why do I feel this? Like, why could I have not done that? And is my relationship with Carly broken now? And Carly is just very, like, beside herself, right? Also, we get to see Spike being recovered as well from the hospital. And Optimus Prime is having some kind of memories. All right. Now, if you remember the last issue here, we saw Sparkplug go into the matrix of leadership. And now because of that, is he acquiring Sparkplug's memories of Spike being born? That's an interesting little concept there. And this was just an overall great issue, man. Absolutely 100% worthy. If you were worried about the artwork change, don't worry, guys. It doesn't skip a beat. The story is freaking phenomenal. It's got so much heart. This is something that you should be reading. Definitely pick this one up. A+ all the way around. A phenomenal, phenomenal read. Action Comics, issue 1064. This is a 36-page comic for the price of $5. We have Joshua Williamson, who's the writer. Art is done by Rafa Sandoval. The artwork is great in this book, man, and the coloring is phenomenal. All the characters look good. The facial expressions are really nice. Panels, layouts are great. Look at this 2-page spread with Superman, you know, freaking flying with the birds. It's just so nice and peaceful in the beginning, and just like, it's just an overall great looking book. Now, I'll show you some pages here, like with some action scenes and Brainiac. Like, it all looks fantastic, man. So I was just like, this is A+ artwork for me. Yeah, like, look at that stuff. So when it comes to Brainiac stories, I'm like, oh man, like, Brainiac, we've seen this all before, right? And this book kind of starts off like a movie, okay? So you get to see Brainiac's, you know, ship flying around the Earth's orbit and whatnot. And then it flashes to, like, Lois, who's like, good morning, Metropolis. I got my day off, you know? And so she's going out. She's having this great day. And in this comic book, if you've never read a Superman comic, don't worry. You get introduced to every single freaking character that's been in this run so far. Boom, 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 boom. Like, you get introduced to everybody. Just so you know who all the players are. So everybody makes their appearance. You think this is going to be this great, happy-go-lucky day. Starts off like this great action-packed movie where everything starts off nice, and then all of a sudden you get that first action scene where the invasion happens, and everything is invading into the city, right? All of the Lobo characters, all of Brainiac's droids, and then boom, there you go. You get the title sequence there. Superman, House of Brainiac. Part 1, Brainiac attacks. And then from there on out, it's freaking balls to the walls action, where we get to see Superman fight all of Brainiac's little drones, and we see him just standing there witnessing the events that happen. And then we wind up seeing all the Lobo characters fight as well. And if you want to hear about where the Lobo characters came from, read a previous issue of Superman somewhere down the line. I think Brainiac, like, shrunk down the city and had it all this time when we never realized. So just when you thought Lobo was the only one, yeah, that's not the case. And then we wind up seeing, like, Brainiac acquire people with all the powers. That's what he was doing. And then what happens is, once he acquired his people, then what happens is he gets up into his spaceship and, like, he freaking flies away. And then Superman tries to go after him. And then that's not the case, man. He couldn't chase him because the spaceship just, like, basically flies away here. And I guess Lois is like, oh my God, Clark. And we see a whole bunch of other Brainiac people. Like, I don't even know who all these Brainiacs are. Like, who are they? If you have any idea, let me know in the comments below. But holy crap, this book was worthy. This book was worthy in every stretch of the imagination. So good. It had me like so hyped. If this is a way to do an issue 1 of an event, at least a Superman event, this is the way to do it, because I don't feel like we've had a Superman event in quite some time, and Superman comics have been good, and this is a good way to kick one off, right? Absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait to see the direction of where this comic actually goes, or this series or event actually goes. And if you're on the fence about it, go ahead, check it out, guys. I'm going to give this one also an A+. This is one of those high tier books this week. And you know what? When it comes to comic books in 2024, just in general, I feel like we've had some really good, high quality comics. Yes, you get your stinkers, but I feel like this year so far, we've got some better quality books. Let me know in the comments below what you think. So there you have it, guys. There are my thoughts on the newest issue 1s, the newest events, the book that has the newest artist on there. I want to hear all your thoughts, if you agree or disagree on the grades. And of course, if you love my content, you're going to want to check out my newest comic book day haul, where it shows you everything I picked up for the current comic book week. And as always, guys, remember, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always read those comics so we can have awesome comic book conversation. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.